Recording. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Venom, and we are here to discuss some Destiny 2 stuff today. Today, I've got Hex with me. Hex, of course, is the first OnlyFans model to have a CDL. Hex, say hello to everybody.
Hello. How's it going?
Not too bad. I was going to use that on somebody else, but no one else popped up. So, you know what? Someone's gonna pretend to be an OnlyFans model. But no, seriously, Hex is one of our clan members, and we are going to talk about some Destiny 2 stuff today. Now, I just kind of sprung this on you guys, and you're the first one who volunteered to join me on the podcast, and I kind of wanted to, not really podcast, haven't really started yet, this is just going to be a random Destiny 2 discussion, but I wanted to get an outside perspective on some stuff that's popped up in Destiny 2, and I want to make sure that I have someone who may not be as cynical as I am talking about it. So, obviously, I know you've heard about some of the Destiny 2 leaks, correct? I don't know if you know what they are, but you've heard of some of them, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so what have you heard so far? That way I know kind of where we start.
Let's see. That's a very good...
Have you heard any specific leaks, or have you just heard that there have been leaks?
I think that I've just been hearing about leaks in general, but nothing specific at this point, other than beta testers being a little bit, or at least closed, like people that Bungie has brought into the inner circle, if you will, that have been expressing somewhat of a disappointment with whatever vertical slice that Bungie has presented them with about the final shape.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't even heard that part. I just heard about actual specifics coming out. I haven't even heard about anyone
it's not
talking about it.
It's mostly just people like they're probably railroaded with some heavy NDA, especially after what happened last time with a more prominent member in the Destiny 2 community that basically, for all intents and purposes, hears everything.
Yeah.
And then he basically doubled down that no, it wasn't me, and then until Bungie basically nuked him.
Yeah, pretty was him. Yeah. Well, so I guess let's go over some basics. I won't give details if you don't want. I want to try to keep most of these kind of general, but let's start with the background. Obviously, we know that the final shape was originally supposed to release, I think, February. We've already obviously coming past that because they were going to push the game back. Right now, we're looking sometime in June. I forgot the exact date, but they pushed it back a few months for June. We're all aware of that. They pushed it back because they didn't feel it was in a good place for release, which, they've done that a couple times ever since COVID hit. They've had to push back 2 major expansions by several months, and this has been the longest delay so far. This has also been will be the last and longest season of Destiny 2 ever. I don't know, we'll see if they ever bring seasons back, but as of right now, this will be the longest season ever and the last. Now, that being said, there have, of course, been rumblings that the game wasn't quite in a position where they wanted it to release at. There's, of course, rumors about the 6th subclass, which, it's been all but confirmed at this point. There's been plenty of screenshots at this point, and at this point, I'd say that at the very least, even if they don't plan to release it with final shape, they're definitely in development of it. I think they've actually confirmed that. We're just waiting to see if it's going to come out in final shape. And since it was delayed, we're kind of assuming it is. That being said, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that they are going to delay that subclass because up until now, they've been kind of focusing, well, at least with the promotional material so far, they've just been promoting like a final light subclass variant for all the classes. So I'm pretty sure a third darkness subclass will probably be saved for like one of them episodes or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that too. Now, I've seen a couple of different takes on that. I've seen some say that they're not going to come out with it yet. I've seen some say that they weren't originally going to, but since there's a delay, they might do it. And I've seen some say that they might be waiting until we get closer to the launch to announce it. Now, it would make sense to kind of help draw out some additional excitement. If we're waiting for 6 months for it to come out, the excitement can easily die down. But at the same time, you are definitely right. We've got out the new subclass supers coming out, so it could be very much that they're going to be focused on that. Although, all they are is supers, as far as I know. I know we're getting some more fragments and stuff. I don't think that they've mentioned much about those. But that's neither here nor there. That's kind of where we're at right now. Now, there's been some rumors that potentially the reason that they are pushing this back is because obviously the game's not where they want it to be at. I almost lost my train of thought there. And part of it seems to be because of how bad Lightfall ended up being. Now, I don't think it was as terrible as people say gameplay wise.
Yeah.
However, the story was just terrible. It was so damn bad. Now, Like Through the Nightmare was a good raid. Some people complained it was the easiest one. I still had a good time winning it. But as far as the actual story of Neomuna and Lightfall, it was terribly paced. It didn't explain anything at all. They explained things later on and gave us ideas about it. But as an expansion, it was clear that it was a filler expansion. And it was very, very poorly written. So I think they're trying to avoid that happening. I think if Lightfall had come out, or Final Shape had come out on time, we probably would have had the same thing happen. Now, that being said, I'm kind of setting the stage here. So as of right now, we're supposed to have Final Shape already. They had to delay that. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but the pre-orders for Final Shape are like a quarter of what they said Witch Queen was. Like, they don't have anywhere near the numbers they thought they were going to have. So, and that's just the pre-orders.
I haven't seen the actual numbers themselves, but I have heard rumblings on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, on Twitter, about like, hey, this is not really. It's not as high as like something like Lightfall or Witch Queen. I've heard of those. I'm like, well, we'll see what happens. They really need to bring it next time.
Yep, and that sets the stage for this one. Bungie was essentially expecting because obviously you're going to have your pre-orders, and you're going to have people that buy the expansion when it comes out. So not only has Bungie not gotten the pre-order money that they were expecting, but of course Lightfall was supposed to, or I keep saying Lightfall, Final Shape, that's how intertwined they are to me. But of course Final Shape was supposed to be out already. So they basically do not have the giant cash influx that they were expecting to have. So Bungie's also kind of short on cash right now. They haven't said that, but they definitely do not have as much revenue as they were originally planning on because of the push and because the community is kind of holding back on buying the expansion or pre-ordering it because of how burned we keep getting for all these expansions and all the pre-orders. So as of right now, they do not have the money that they were initially going to have. So that kind of worries me a bit. But I said all that to say this. We just found out they were getting and again, you may have seen this, you may not have, and we'll get to the actual leaks a bit more, but I want to set the stage for what we had just recently seen. Have you seen the Ghostbusters shit that's coming out for Destiny 2 now?
Yeah, I'm very much aware. And yeah, I was going to interject with this. Like, there's a reason why the Ghostbusters thing's coming out. There's a reason why right now in Guardian games, there's a Galahorn-themed armor set with a skimmer as well. No. They probably are like strapped for cash, so they really need to double down on Eververse.
They're strapped for cash, and the problem is, you're right, they are doubling down on the Eververse, doubling and tripling down, and pretty much the same reaction I'm seeing from everybody for the Ghostbusters thing is, now, don't get me wrong, most of the crossovers have not made sense to me. They seem kind of random, but even the Ghostbusters one, even as far as crossovers goes, has been kind of what the hell is this? But, I mean, it's one of those random things I could see somebody at Bungie saying, hey, how about Ghostbusters? They'll be like, oh, yeah, we love Ghostbusters. There's a new movie coming out, but it's also not like a video game crossover like we've had. Like, we've had stuff, or we've had Mass Effect crossover. You know, we've had the Witcher crossover. They were out of the blue, but they were okay. I mean, I'm wearing the Witcher armor right now on my Hunter, but they were also still very expensive. But the Ghostbusters one seems so out of left field and such a cash grab that it's kind of shocking people.
This is probably not much of a Bungie decision. This is more like a Sony decision. At least the Ghostbusters one. The Witcher one makes sense because we're dealing with dragons, we're hunting monsters, so Witcher, along with Season of the Wish, makes sense. The other crossovers, I think, are kind of like just crossover. Here we are. But at least the Witcher one makes sense with the season that we're currently in. Ghostbusters, yeah, that's probably a Sony mandate because Sony's kind of mad with Bungie at this point in time.
Well, and Bungie right now is trying not to get completely taken over by Sony too.
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm seeing. That Bungie's really, not only in trouble with us, the player base, but also with their new corporate masters.
Yeah. And just in case anyone is confused as to why Bungie is currently in trouble, and I want to say this too. I kind of got some flack on some videos about how I kind of reviewed some stuff. I'm going to be, again, I got to be the same for everything.
Impartial.
Yeah, if I were to, or someone were to ask me if I recommend Destiny 2 to player now, it would be a hard no. Like, I would not recommend anyone to play Destiny 2 as it stands today. So, I know Destiny 2 is my main game. I don't want anyone to think I'm favoring it over any other games, because I did talk about some issues that Helldiver had. Don't think I'm favoring Destiny 2 over that. I would not recommend anyone who has not played Destiny 2 before to get into the game as of right now. And part of the reason that Bungie has shot themselves in the foot, and that's why I wouldn't recommend it. I'm going to get into it. They're in trouble with the player base for quite a few reasons. First off, recently again, and I don't want people to forget this. This is very important. I don't want people to forget about stuff in this industry. I don't want us to forget about the fact that microtransactions were never something that we wanted in games. I don't want people to forget about how people were being essentially pushed to work extra hours, the crunch that was happening for games, and we were still ending up getting shitty games. I don't want people to forget about how Bungie just laid off, what was it, like, how many people did they lay off here recently?
100 plus, and it basically constituted about 8% of the workforce.
Yeah, including a bunch of security people. Like, I don't want people to forget that. So first off,
the majority of their QA,
yeah,
and community management.
Which, by the way, getting rid of your QA when you had back-to-back seasons that were completely breaking your game, probably not a good idea to do. So the community is very outspoken about that, and I don't want to let anyone forget about that. I want to keep it in the forefront because, like I said, we are getting up to that end of that 10-year story of the Light and Dark. I talked about this before. This is the only game, or very few games I've seen, where you can actually have a good stopping point on what you would call an MMO. Granted, Destiny, people don't call it MMO, some do it, whatever. It's a live game that's got an overarching story that does have an actual ending point that people can kind of stop playing to say, okay, we finished up this saga, I'm good to stop playing now. As of right now, Bungie has got that. What they want to do is not only keep their player base, but keep us around for another saga coming up. We're ending the Light and Dark saga. They want us to stay for another saga coming up. However, every decision Bungie has made is catching up to them, and it's like every bad decision is catching up to them in this one spot, and this one expansion basically is going to make or break. Now, I'm not going to say make or break Destiny 2 because I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but it's not going to be nearly as good or nearly as popular as it is now. Like, they're going to have to either really wow everybody enough to get everybody who's upset with them on all their main players to stay, or they're going to have to find essentially a new audience. I don't think the game will die, because as far as I know, this is their main game making money, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as popular as it was.
It's their only game at this point.
Yeah, it's their only game.
They're kind of betting on Marathon to be their plan B, C, D, whatever letter of the alphabet you want to choose, in case Final Shape it doesn't go through, or it's because they want to chase a new audience.
Well, they were using Destiny to fund those projects too. That's the other thing that people were upset about. Personally, I'm upset about that. They're using, instead of taking the money that Destiny's making to improve Destiny, they're taking that money to fund other games. Now, I can understand it from a corporate standpoint, but as a gamer who sees that some of that money probably should have stayed with Destiny 2 to improve some things, that's kind of been an issue. Like, we've got things that have only just now come into the game, and it's been 10 years. Like, it.
To be fair, Destiny 2 is built on a very, very rotten foundation. This game, the fact that it has lasted 7 years of Destiny 2, not Destiny 1, not the entire franchise, of Destiny 2 on its own. It's been going on strong for 7 years. That is way, way longer than it should have been. And they have broken and rebroken the foundation several times over across the years to try to appease us, the fans. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this thing should have ended years ago. We should have been on Destiny. It should have been in Destiny 3 by now.
I can agree and disagree on some points on that, but before we can get to that, let's continue on. So, we'll bring up the next part in a second. As far as the foundation goes, yes and no. The foundation had to be changed and broken, but that's only because the foundation was kind of shit to begin with. And I don't remember the developer who said it. I forgot who was talking about it, but I remember the live stream. I think it was before we got Void 3.0, how they were talking about, when you remember the old system we had, how it basically, you just chose what, build you wanted and you couldn't do any kind of customization. And the developers basically came out and said yes, because they essentially said because people were using the builds wrong, not the way we wanted them to. So we basically dumbed them down. That was the basis that Destiny 2 launched on, and that right there was a rotten core. So they've been trying to catch up and fix what they should never fucked with to begin with from the start. And on top of that, on top of the basic stuff, they had to come back and keep relaunching these subclasses. I mean, getting new subclasses, that's great. But they had to go back and relaunch subclasses because of how busted they were. Because, they were just basic. There was no real customization, which is what Destiny 1 was built on. We got that now. But it's not so much that they're breaking it, or I guess they are, but they're fixing what should have been done to begin with. This is what the foundation should have been, and then they should have built from there. And on top of that, they've also gotten rid of, and this again culminates in the issue that we've got coming into the final shape, and why I don't recommend Destiny 2 to anybody right now, is because if you were to get into the game right now, you would literally have no idea what is going on by playing the game. Because, and I don't know of any other game that's done this to this date, and this is part of the reason why they're scrambling to get money, part of the reason why we're worried about the final shape. All this is culminating into this decision Bungie made, is that they got rid of and sunsetted not just gear and equipment, but actual content in the game. I don't know any other game, whether it be an MMO or any other long-term game, that vaulted, not even like expansion stuff, but vaulted their actual main core story content. Like, I can understand stuff like maybe raids or seasonal stuff. Seasonal stuff, fine. I can understand seasonal stories maybe being vaulted. But your core playlist, your core campaign, that explains everything going on being vaulted, has shot Destiny, or has shot Bungie in the foot, and that has caused a domino effect to where we are right now. In my opinion.
I can agree with that this has shot them in the foot, but honestly speaking, would this game even run if it still had all those campaign missions, all those raids, all those activities? Could this game even be balanced and patched in a more timely fashion with those things still in the game? That's the main.
I'd say yes as far as the balance and patching, because most of the campaigns, they were already balanced and patched. Yes, we got new stuff that came out. Most of those campaigns, and we're talking just campaign stuff. I'm not talking about, just campaigns and raids, okay? Yes, new stuff has come out mechanic-wise. Like, we got the skimmer that can basically grind forever now. You can basically fly with it. They haven't patched out anything else because that came in. We just now have more power, and we can do stuff like grapple around now. They didn't rebalance the entire game based on the fact that we can now reach higher places. They basically said, fuck it, you can do this now. That's how it should be. As we're getting stronger, we should be able to go back and just be able to do things now. Now, as far as whether or not there would be enough room for the game, as far as you had enough room to download, I got a couple ideas with that. One, for PC, most PC players probably wouldn't have that issue. I understand console, you got to try to balance for both. I understand that. But there's also a simple solution, and that is letting you download whatever it is you play. I forgot what it was called, but download whatever maps you want to play. Download whatever campaigns you want to play. If you bought it, great. You can uncheck it, get rid of it. You can recheck it, download it again. Kind of like how you had alternate maps in the games. Like back when, the Halo days where you could have, downloaded maps, stuff like that. Download what you want to play, and then get rid of what you don't want to. That could easily have been implemented. And even with that, even if I go with there's just too much of the game to put in there, plenty of other games, not only on PC but on console, keep adding content to their game and still don't get rid of the other stuff, and it's fine. Now, I understand that there is still an issue with consoles having limited space. Not a good reason to get rid of content that people paid for, which is another big sticking point. People paid for content they can no longer play anymore.
All right, yep.
And that comes, all that is basically stop new players from being able to play. Like, I think I went through and I tried to play the New Light missions before. I had no idea what the hell was going on. Like, none of it. Half the stuff that you actually did in the New Light mission was not in game. It's not like mechanics. I remember some weird maze or some crap you had to do and dodge stuff. That's not stuff you do in the game. It did not give a very good overview of how you actually play Destiny 2 or give an idea of what the game is about. So the new light experience is still, to this day, terrible. And all of that could have been alleviated had Bungie just not gotten rid of the Red War. And that's going to bring me to the first leak. It might actually make you happy. There's a leak saying we're going to get the Red War back.
Interesting.
Now, it's still a leak, but that is one of the leaks, is that they're saying we're going to get the Red War back.
The thing is, though, if you do bring back the Red War, you're going to have to streamline. That Bungie still needs to streamline it a lot, because most of the Red War is big opening mission when you go to a new destination, a solid amount of missions, an endpoint, and somewhere in the middle, adventures. Remember adventures?
Yeah,
would fill in the gap, and then from there you would then get told, hey, you need to go find Cade on Nessus. Oh, you finished this here? You have to go to Io to find Rykora, and so on and so forth.
You had to hit certain level milestones to actually do that stuff. Now, that would easily be streamlined. Excuse me. It could easily be streamlined at this point by just getting rid of that level requirement. I mean, I think back then we were like literally going from like level 1 to 20, and then we hit the end game or some. I think it was like level 20 was the end game, and then we would start taking off on our real power level. I mean, I'm 1822 power right now. Looking at my character, I wouldn't have to really worry about the new characters. Yeah, maybe they would just go. They could do it a couple different ways. I would say if they just start with normal drops, you probably don't even have to worry about it. Like getting rid of that in between grind is not too hard. Just have normal drops, and then don't worry about that grind in between. Just give us regular grind or drops, starting at 1360 or 1600, I think is the minimum right now. Just go ahead and let the normal gear start dropping like it does right now. You don't have to worry about all that in between grinding. Just at each mission, just go back to back to back to back, just like you do every other campaign. And that's the thing. The Red War could easily be played like any other campaign, just back to back missions, and don't worry about having to grind in between like you do. Like you don't have to do for the other campaigns. You don't have to grind in between for the other campaigns. Assuming you got most of your gear doing the main campaign, which you can typically do.
Mm-hmm. So besides the Red War, is there any leaks about Curse of Osiris and the other ones?
No, and that's where, as of right now, no. But that's what kind of part of what I wanted to talk about today too, is that if they are bringing back the Red War, I'd say that is a good starting point. And I believe they're talking about doing that for the Into the Light event, which starts in April. So that's basically next month. Not only are they talking about that, they are talking about bringing back other content, not necessarily campaigns, but I think bringing back the campaigns would be a first start. And I say all this because, in my mind, to make the Final Shape work, Bungie's going to have to do a couple things. One, Final Shape is going to have to actually blow away and be an actual good ending to satisfy all the legacy players, to satisfy all the veterans. An actual worthy ending for the 10-year Light and Darkness saga. It can't be like a random. It's got to be an actual ending worth 10 years. It can't just be like a random, end of season event. It's got to be an actual ending worthy of everything we put into it. So it's got to be worth it. Now, obviously, the campaign is going to end part of it, and the raid will end another part. I know most people can't do the raid, so at the very least, the campaign itself is going to have to be worthy as an ending of the story. Okay.
True.
What was your question you were asking?
Yeah, there's just another leak. I don't know if you've heard this, but there was a couple of leaks. Like this is like about year-old leaks at this point. That yes, after there's the ending campaign of Final Shape, which carries over to the raid, and then there's an actual epilogue at the end of the raid that will auto send you to that mission once you finish the raid. So you finish the raid, you complain that your teammate got the raid exotic, and then instead of you going to orbit, it will immediately yeet you into this epilogue where you kill the witness once and for all.
That'd be pretty cool.
And it's actually one of those. It's kind of reminiscent to that bug that we had a couple of years back, where there was multiple players. Like, memory serves, there was rumors and leaks about Bungie finally, quote unquote, breaking the matchmaking and making it 12-player. That the epilogue is a 12-player activity.
Okay, that'd be pretty cool. That would be something that would be probably worthy of the of the actual end game, assuming that the story actually wraps up well too, because that's part of the other issue, that the story, like the stuff that they told for Lightfall, the stuff we found out afterwards could have easily been put into Lightfall. Like the stuff that we found out in one cutscene should have been in Lightfall, and explained so much in that one cutscene. What the Veil was, what the Traveler was, who the Witness was, all of that should have been in Lightfall, and instead we got it as a mid-season cutscene afterwards. But that's a whole other thing. So, but yeah, the ending of the Light and Dark saga is going to have to be epic and worthy of being an end of saga episode, or it's got to be a good ending. It's got to be a good ending. Second off, and that's just to make the people who are already playing happy. If you fuck up the ending, so many people are gonna quit just because of that shit. It's not anybody funny. Because if your ending sucks, and this brings me to point number 2, if the ending is terrible, no one's gonna stick around, especially veteran players, to start off on the next epic knowing how your first one ended. So if you want us to stick around for another 10 years, if we already know the first story sucked on the ending, no one's gonna stick around for the second one. And while they're supposed to be learning this entire time, how to storytell, when they should be putting out stuff, they clearly didn't, because Lightfall was a mess, again, as we know. But if that first 10 years, the ending is bad, no one's going to come back, or no one's going to stay for the next 10 years just to get jerked off again, at the end of the 20 years. Like, no, I'm not doing that. No one's going to stick around for that crap. And on top of all that, the third thing they've got to do is they're going to have to, because they're still, no matter what, people are going to quit. I mean, it may not be a lot, but people will leave. They've still got to bring in new players. So that means they've still got to make the story make sense. So they still have to bring back that old content. If they don't bring back the old content, there's no real way around it. They've got to bring it back, narratively wise, and monetarily they have to, because again, people are pissed that we paid for content that we can no longer play. The story doesn't make sense. New players don't know what's going on. So that's got to come back to get new players in. They've got to make Final Shape great to make us happy. And then they've got to definitely do that so that we stick around for the next 10 years. Because if Final Shape fails, I mean, I know those people are still going to play Destiny 2, but plenty of people are going to quit because it's a good stopping point. They're not going to trust Bungie to give us 10 years of good storytelling going forward, because we're supposed to be doing a next epic. No one knows what it's going to be. We're going to have some kind of new big bad, or they're going to pull some kind of bad guy out their ass. No one's going to trust them to do that. And no one's going to recommend any new players play this game because they're not going to know what's going on.
Yeah, whether or not Final Shape is successful or is a huge success, or it fails tremendously. I lost my train of thought. My bad.
No, that's fine. But getting more, so we got
Continue.
that.
Carry on.
So those are some of the reasons that Final Shape has to be good. And everything really does hinge on that. If it does not end up good, they're in trouble. But continuing on with some leaks that we got. Did you figure out what you were about to say?
Yeah, it has to be good, because if it doesn't, a Bungie-led future is not going to happen at all, because there's probably some rumblings around that Sony is the reason why Sony's kind of like very militant with Bungie is because Sony is also considering a total takeover.
Yeah, they're going to take them over. Lightfall flopped.
Yeah.
Their numbers are doing shit, and Sony's looking at them like, look, we trusted you. You fucked up. We're going to take over the shit if you don't make it work. So that's another reason, yeah. For the studio themselves, so I guess for the studio, their big thing is they got to make it work so that they don't lose their studio, so that they stay in charge, they stay independent. If they don't, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily trust Sony, but if Bungie's already fucked us up, I mean, what's Sony going to do? Fuck us up more? All they can do is fill up.
Oh, no. If anything, they're probably just going to transform Bungie into... I think this is mostly just a pipe dream of mine. A Bungie made Killzone. There's your. No need to bring Halo to PlayStation if you have your own Halo.
Yeah, sure. But That's where Final Shape is standing at right now. So that's why everyone's talking about Final Shape. That's why it's such a big deal it does well. But like I said, the current leaks are for this end of the light event, which is going to be, it's like the 30th or 30-year anniversary event we got with the last super long wait for Witch Queen. This one, like I said, the rumor is that the Red War is going to return. That is just a leak right now. But some of the bigger leaks are in some of the more reputable ones that we're hearing. Black Army weapons. We're hearing those are going to come back. In fact, it looks like it looks like a couple, and not just those, but some pinnacle weapons as well. The reason they're saying that, one, because we got the leaks, but two, it looks like some ornaments have popped up in the API for Destiny 2. I forgot exactly what's popping up. But we're talking about things like Recluse has got an ornament in there. I think the Hammerhead has got an ornament in there. So we're talking weapons that were sunset coming back. Now, how many of them, we don't know. And this leads me into something else that I thought was... It was a lost opportunity for Bungie to make weapon crafting feel better. I don't like how weapon crafting was put into Destiny 2. I know the community is divided on it as far as what they think about weapon crafting. Personally, I love it. I like the fact that no matter what, I don't have to worry about RNG because I know no matter what, my time will...
Agreed.
Yeah, my time will be respected. There are people that are still trying to get Vex Minta class, and that raid's been out for like 18 years or some shit. So, yeah.
Literally 6 months ago, that was me.
Yeah, so the fact that RNG is such an issue, like people are like, well, once you get your red borders, you don't got to worry about grinding again. Well, if you get your God roll on the first time you win the raid, or second time, you don't got to worry about it either. Well, you can get multiple God rolls for different stuff. Okay, you can make multiple different versions or put different versions on your weapon. So, it's kind of a bad argument, the people that's saying that's why crafting bad. I get it was implemented kind of shittily. And that leads me to saying this. I think they could have used the assets they have. The problem is Bungie's not using the assets that they have very well. They could have very easily implemented weapon crafting using 801. Like, imagine that the Black Armory never left, and instead of that random-ass relic on Mars, 801 says, hey, I fired up a new forge. Let's get him out. Let's do this. We can make our own weapons now. That's how weapon crafting should have been brought in. Not some random relic.
And another thing, like the reason why most people are vehemently against weapon crafting is because even if you do get lucky with an RNG drop of a raid weapon or whatever, it will still feel inferior to a crafted weapon. Because with a crafted weapon you can always modify it to whatever needs you need for it.
Yep.
With an RNG drop, you're stuck with whatever that is.
They should have made it to where you can just take that weapon, and then once you have the blueprint unlocked for it, go ahead and modify that same weapon. I have to craft a whole new one.
Yeah.
So let them modify that weapon, not just get rid of it. If you got one, modify it.
They do that with the craftable exotics. The bow that we just got this season.
Mm-hmm.
Technically speaking, all you need to do is once you get the weapon, you can just level it up like a crafted weapon, and then if you need to go to the relic, you can just reshape it there. But it's still the same one that you got from as a first initial drop.
The way I'd always envisioned weapon crafting is that you would get the weapons and you break them down, and when you break down a weapon, you just learn what the perks are that can go on it. And then when you craft a weapon, you can put whatever perks that you learned onto that weapon. So it wouldn't be just a matter of leveling up the weapon. You got to find the perks for it. That to me would have been a lot better, because then we could actually craft, then the world drops become more important. You got to actually form, or you got to break down so many of a weapon to learn the perk for it. You got to break down 3 weapons with Demolicious to learn Demolicious. Stuff like that. That's how I thought it would go. But at the very least, I thought they were going to be using the Black Armory to, when you hear weapon crafting, you think Black Armory. That's what the whole thing was, a whole season of crafting weapons. The fact that they didn't jump on an obvious avenue to introduce that, especially with a set of weapons that people loved, just shows how easily that they let things slip, how easily they let awesome ideas go by. That to me was a no-brainer, because they already had literal weapon crafting in the game as a story point, but they failed to capitalize on that, bringing that as a function in the game.
Mm.
So that one is just kind of a random aside I thought of when I heard that the Black Armory stuff is going to be returning. Now, they're talking about the armor too, not just weapons, but armor. I don't know if all the weapons are coming back or not, but as of right now, we know that some are supposed to be coming back, and it's pretty much accepted at this point because, like I said, they've got ornaments in the API that are going to be in the Eververse store. So, of course, Bungie's got to make sure the Eververse store has got everything correct on there, so.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at for that one. So.
Yeah. I can totally see the return of Black Armory weapons and the Red War coming back in late April. That seems plausible enough.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Anything
right
else?
Now. Let's say there's that. Past that, like I said, there's other random leaks. I mean, there's stuff talking about what's going to happen after the final shape. There's leaks about what the actual raid would be. Most stuff has not been corroborated. I've seen. I mean, I kind of troll around Reddit and a bunch of other places. I watch all the YouTubers talk about it. Most of the stuff that we've seen that they've talked about is going to be definitely like the Black Armory stuff. They're talking about some of the perks you can get on some of the old Pinnacle weapons, like I think it was Arms Mat or Master of Arms that was on like Recluse. Trying to retool that to put on other weapons, so not just have that as a perk for Recluse, but as a perk for other. Go ahead.
I mean, unfortunately, you could just no need to retool Master of Arms, because technically speaking, there's already a Master of Arms type of perk already in the game. It's kind of like a pseudo Master of Arms, but I think which one was it again?
I mean, there's a few. I mean, there's Golden Tricorn. There's stuff like Adrenaline Junkie. I mean, a lot of them, some of them aren't as strong as Master of Arms were, don't get me wrong, but there are plenty of weapons that will get stronger as you get kills with them. Now, granted, stuff like Adrenaline Junkie, stuff like Multi-Kill Clip, you got, Golden Tricorn, they take other stuff to activate them, but they're still in the game and they're still pretty strong. And I remember at one point someone was saying they're never going to bring back stuff like Recluse. They're never going to put... I think at one point it actually suggested that they put Master of Arms on other weapons. And I forgot what it was. I don't think it was a video I did, but someone laughed was like, they're never going to do something like that. And then here we are. We power crept so much that they're looking to actually do something like that.
Yeah, because even now, Master of Arms would not... Even an unnerfed version of Master of Arms... wouldn't be that strong in this particular meta of Destiny.
I think it'd be good.
Strong.
I think that
it'll be good, but it's not going to be. It's not going to beat repulsor brace, destabilizing rounds on an SMG or something.
Well, it depends. If you were to put repulsor brace, let's say we had Recluse now, the actual Sunset Recluse, that probably would. I don't think Funnel Web would have become as popular as it was, assuming that you would have some of those other Void-specific perks. Like, if you could actually craft the Recluse and it had some Void-specific perks on it, if you had to give up either Repulsor Brace or Destabilizing Rounds, I think people could give up one or the other for Master of Arms versus using the Funnel Web today, or using any other Void weapon with both of those on there. I think they can give up one. I would be willing to give up one of those perks for Master of Arms.
Mm-hmm.
Not both of them, but one I could probably give up. But that's, I haven't got any news about what the origin perks are going to be for the Black Armory weapons, but that's the other thing, too. I was watching some other YouTubers talking. I'm not going to say who they are because they're bigger. Everyone's probably seen them already, but, and I don't want to misquote them either, but they were basically talking about, where was a YouTuber basically talking about how it was like a 20-minute thing. He was talking about how the Black Armory weapons weren't as good as we remember. And it wasn't really a fair argument because he was kind of comparing it to stuff we have now. It's not really a fair comparison. You had to compare it to what it was doing at the time. And
at the time, the repulsor brace destabilizing rounds of the era was a reload enhancing perk and a damage perk. It was either outlaw kill clip, outlaw rampage, rapid hit kill clip, rapid hit rampage. Mm-hmm. Nothing else mattered. Vorpal on your heavy. That's it.
Those weapons dominated everything. So if we were to compare those to weapons we have today, there's not really a lot of weapons today that dominated as much as Black Armory weapons did as a whole. And I guess today what we would have would be like seasonal or expansion weapons. There hasn't been a season in a while where I was like, these weapons are amazing. Like even Neomuna, it had a couple. Like my favorite machine gun, Circular Logic, comes from Neomuna. I love it. It's got Demolitionist on it. It's a stranded weapon. It's got nanotech rockets. I love that weapon. But that's about the only weapon from Neomuna that I really like. There hasn't been a real season or real expansion where everyone was like, every weapon on here, it's like every single weapon, some YouTubers come out and said this weapon's OP at some point just to make content. Like every single YouTuber who's like busted at PvP has made a clip using some random weapon saying this weapon is awesome. You're sleeping on it. And then they got a video of them making, 10, 15, 20 kills in a row with some random ass gun that you just basically destroy when you get. But the fact of the matter is there hasn't really been any dominant weapon set since Black Army that I can think of.
In modern Destiny, yeah, because in Destiny 1 you couldn't. Bungie literally broke the mold with Vault the Glass.
Yeah, that's Destiny
Year
1.
one.
Yeah, that's Destiny 1. So Destiny 2, I mean, Black Armory was in Destiny 2, so we got to go from there up until this point. So between Black Armory and today, there has not been any set of seasonal or expansion weapons that have dominated the game as much as Black Armory did. So imagine taking what those weapons were capable of at that time and remaking them for modern Destiny 2, for today's Destiny 2. Imagine what those perks are going to be, because we should have at the very least, the base perks that existed there. Now we're going to be getting origin traits. Now we're going to be getting subclass specific perks. Now we're going to have stuff like, like we're going to have access to things like Volt Shot. We're going to have access to things like Incendiary. We're going to have, like you said, destabilizing rounds and repulsor brace. We're going to be able to pull from all of those as well, on top of what Black Army could already do. And that's not to mention who knows what the origin perk is going to do. So I still have no idea. It's probably going to be something crazy.
Since it's all about Black Armory, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with weapons in general, because we've seen some of the newer perks have been about, like, let's say the new prophecy weapon, the new version of the prophecy weapons are all about dividing your magazine in half, with giving you a bonus in the top half and then giving you another bonus in the bottom half. So maybe something similar to that, or involving your weapon itself.
Well, I could easily. Sorry, go ahead. There's a delay.
Since it is a Black Armory, it's about the gun. The gun is what makes it the best thing in the world, because it's Black Armory.
Yep. And I can easily see the origin trait being something along the lines of kind of what we got from Root of Nightmares, like Harmonic Resonance, having multiple weapons from that set doing something when you have them equipped, or even breaking that mold, having on armor pieces and using that weapon working with Black Armory, bringing the armor into it. So we haven't really had any non-raid armor that did anything really outside of seasonal activities. Like we have, like every season's got its seasonal armor that does something for that season. When you've got something like I'm looking at right now, Queen's Favor, it does stuff for it was a seasonal event piece. Like it does stuff for that season, and that's it. For raids, we got raid armor pieces that do things in that raid, and that's it. I could easily see Black Armory, weapons and armor working together. That'd be cool. I don't think they're going to do something like that, but in my head, if I were to design something like that, I would make it to where the Black Army weapons would get some kind of power-up when used with each other, or when used with armor pieces. Like you get, like so much % damage when used with, so many pieces of armor like that. So that would be something I could see. That'd be pretty unique. We haven't really seen that yet. I don't know how awesome Bungie's going to be, so I doubt that's going to be anything that cool, but that would be where I go with it. Because let's be honest, a lot of the origin perks in the game suck. Some just look like they're kind of filler perks, but there's a couple that are alright. Now, Black Army, I hate to see them make a perk for Black Army weapons. That sucks. They need to have an origin trait worthy of Black Armory, because not only were those weapons great, but because the community loved them so much. So if they fuck up the return of Black Army weapons, I think that's also going to be an issue, because mishandling stuff that the player base loves is also a bit of an issue Bungie's had.
Mm-hmm. Kindle Orchid better have a Kill Clip and Rampage again, just like a Transfiguration.
I can't wait to get Ringing Nail back again. I love my scout rifles.
Ringing Nail's the auto rifle.
Oh, that's right. What was the scout rifle called again? Yeah, that was the first one that had box breathing on it. It took me forever to get it, and when I finally got it, they sunset it.
Oh boy!
And I think I finally got one. I finally got one box breathing and some other perk on it. And right when they got it, they sunset, and I was just so pissed at that point.
Mm.
And as a Reginald's the auto rifle you got. Hammerhead, I think, was a machine gun.
The machine gun.
Kindled Orchid was a hand cannon. What was a bow called? It's been so long. It has been so long since we had those. But looking forward to getting those back. Like I said, it's at this point, it's all but confirmed they're going to be coming back. It's just whether or not they're going to come back in a good.
Yeah, the scout rifle. The scout rifle's called No Feelings.
That's right, No Feelings. So yeah, if they bring them back and if they bring them back in a good way, I think the community will be happy. And all this is kind of culminating in me saying it looks like they're making some moves with Into the Light and maybe a little bit afterwards that I did not expect Bungie to make, because I put out a video saying for me to really think Bungie is going to make it in the future and stay large or keep the community at the very least, that they not only had to make Final Shape good, but they had to bring back all the old content, all the campaign stuff at the very least, and all the old weapons and armor. And they had to make it really good, or they had to slow down on the Eververse bullshit. Now, I doubt they're going to do the Eververse crap, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah. It's not going to happen. 2 out of 3 was not bad, and as of right now, we're looking okay. Not great, but okay for Into the Light. Now, it could be that they're working on those other expansions, and they're going to slowly roll them out. If that's what they're doing, I don't want it to be something to where it's like every year we get an old campaign back. They need to bringing those back like every couple months. They've got the maps. I don't know what they need to do to put those back in the game, but if they've already got the maps, I don't know what, from a programming point of view, they've got to do. But I can't imagine it's going to be as much as building it from the ground up. So, if they've got all that, it needs to be back in the game and in a quick and timely fashion as well. It shouldn't be one of those things to where, hey, this year we got Red War, and next year we get Curse of Osiris, and the year after that we get, like, no, we need all that content, and fairly quickly. Because if it's not in the player's hands again fairly soon, either before or after Final Shape is done, then that next saga is DOA.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of need that new era as a plan B in case of Marathon and whatever they're cooking up with Tencent is actually any good.
Anything that they're doing with Tencent is dead on. It's not going to work. I can tell you that. That's my official prediction. I'm going to say now, if they're doing anything with Tencent, whatever that project is already dead. That is my prediction. I got a few reasons for saying that, but one, looking at the history of Tencent, and two, looking at what's going on in that era, no. Anything that's coming out of that, I'm going to predict is going to do horribly. But part of that is wishful thinking because I want that company to go down. And then two, part of that is because I've seen kind of what's happened with them. I don't think it's going to do well. Or at the very least, what they put out is not going to be something that I would want to play, and I don't think a lot of people in the community would want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of that's personal, but that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, and also I did find out what was the Master of Arms equivalent right now, which is Harmony. It's literally just Master of Arms, but significantly weaker. Mm. So Master of Arms, whatever, if it is coming back, it needs to be the unnerfed version. Yeah. It has to be.
It's going to have to be the unnerfed version, or it's going to have to be, if that was the origin trait, I could see that being pretty damn good. Because it's not just that either, too. They're also coming out with, and get this, they're talking about coming out with Luna's Howl Not Forgotten, not just them, but craftable versions of them. So think about that.
I mean, Not Forgotten would be the more ideal one because it has the better range.
Both coming out as 180s, by the way. Both coming back as 180s.
As 180s.
180s.
With Luna's Howl as the main perk.
Yes.
Interesting. Are they coming back as legendaries? Or are they finally pulling the trigger on?
I think they're still coming back as Pinnacles again, or I think they're coming back as PvP weapons again. I don't know how, but that's what the leak is right now, that Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten are coming back. With craftable versions for PvP, so I think that might be the other thing too. I might have mentioned that. It's a smaller thing, but bringing back weapons to actually earn and fight for bringing back those pinnacle weapons. Because the fact that people worked for them when they were basically taken away was another big thing. Like, that still rolls into the content that was taken away from us. So, again, more content that was taken away from us, but brought back and improved, hopefully improved well, but being brought back nonetheless. So, a step in the right direction, but that's something else I forgot today. That was another leak I just heard today, actually, that they were being brought back. I think that might have been on Lucky's channel, but that was another one. That one shocked me. That one shocked me, because I remember how much people bitched about Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten. And
my prediction: Luna's Howl for the general playlist, and Not Forgotten for the competitive playlist.
It might be. I heard they were both. Well, I think it might have just been the one for it. I got to double check and see exactly what it said. But yeah, I know at least one competitive. I think Not Forgotten was definitely supposed to be competitive. Luna's Howl, I don't know. I don't remember that one, but we'll see. It might change between now and then too. They could both go general, could both go competitive. Personally, I'd say I like what you said. Not Forgotten for competitive and Luna's Howl for general. It sounds pretty good, especially if it has updated perks like stuff like incandescent, that kind of thing. That'd be an awesome hand cannon to have for
simple.
PvE.
That way you have a Luna's Howl with like a gajillion perks, just like every other playlist Crucible weapon that you have to basically live in the playlist and get a bunch of engrams to then spam Shax at his inventory to try and get a Luna's Howl with the perks you want.
Can you imagine?
But if you want to go even better, you could just go to the competitive playlist and do your weekly 3 games to get one Not Forgotten. That may or may not have the ones you want.
I was just thinking of a sweet pipe dream that's never going to happen, but it's nice to think about. Imagine some of these weapons coming back as Nightfall weapons. Like, imagine an Adept Not Forgotten, or an Adept Luna's Howl.
That could happen.
Imagine that as an Adept weapon. Like, that would be, again, total pipe dream. Not going to happen, but imagine that it did happen. Imagine an Adept Mountaintop.
There, you got me. Sold.
Adept Mountaintop. Now, if Mountaintop comes back, I don't remember if they said Mountaintop is coming back either, but as that one does come back, I think that'd be competitive.
I mean, technically speaking, of the 3 pinnacles of Black Armory, Mountaintop is the only one that's missing. Loaded Question has been around for a while. This season brought back Breakneck. The only one that's missing from that particular trio is Mountaintop. Is the only one missing from that trio.
That could be a very, very interesting.
And Mountaintop is from the Black Armory season.
It could be a very, very interesting season. I think they could Now, I don't know how they're going to do the weapons. I think there was some talk they might just relight the forges, which means the activity might come back. Personally, I don't care about the activity. It could be all right, but I'd rather we just get ways to earn it. Maybe it's something to where you do the activity and we can earn red borders. Like, bring back the old activity, then you have a chance for red borders. I don't necessarily like that one. I don't know how they're going to reintroduce them.
The seasonal activity of the forges?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to bring back that seasonal activity. No. Yeah, that wouldn't make too much sense.
Just whatever they have for Into the Light, we do that, and that's how we get our weapons.
I mean, if what I'm hearing is correct, what the big thing is going to be Red War. Like, if we get, imagine Black Army weapons dropping. It doesn't make sense canonically, but fuck it at this point. If you're giving us back the Red War, and you're giving us back Black Armory, then I'll take it. Now, here's one more thing, too. It better not be a fucking catch-up mission. You remember those catch-up missions that we got for Beyond Light and, Witch Queen and shit, those 10-minute missions that, you spent 10 minutes. The mission itself wasn't anything that matched any of the other I think it's on a directory right now. Hold on, let me back up here. Where is it? Here's a timeline. Yeah, have you played any of the catch-up missions on the timeline?
I did. I played them. The abridged version of all these missions.
Yep. Yeah. Here we go. We got Forsaken, and I remember when I loaded in the Forsaken thing, and holy shit, I get to play some Forsaken again, and I was so disappointed in what it actually turned out to be. Yeah, we got that Forsaken. We've got the one for Beyond Light, and then we've got the one here for Witch Queen. If this is a catch-up mission like this, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but it's not going to be anything good for my health. I may have an actual stroke. And they take the Red War and they make it a catch-up mission.
For certain elements, I unfortunately I can totally see that because
it makes sense they would do it, which is what pisses me off. Because if that be the case, I could see them doing that not just for Red War, but Curse of Osiris, War Mine, Shadowkeep. I could see them doing that for. I could see them putting catch-up missions in that whole timeline, and that's how they end up doing that. And that scares the shit out of me.
All right, in the timeline, yeah.
Yep, I'm on the timeline now. We got the Red War, Curse of Osiris, War Mine, and then the first catch-up mission is Forsaken. They skip Shadowkeep for some reason. Go to Beyond Light. We've got
the reason why they skip Shadowkeep is because you can still buy Shadowkeep. You can still buy it, get it, download it, and just play through the campaign.
Yeah, but you can do that with Beyond Light too. But why do you have a catch-up mission for Beyond Light? And Witch Queen. We got catch-up missions for Witch Queen and Beyond Light.
Interesting.
Like, if they just want to introduce the darkness, okay, fine. I can see Beyond Light, but there's no reason for Witch Queen because that one came out. That was just before Lightfall. That's the first full or last full expansion we have because I don't qualify Lightfall as a full expansion. It's a filler. So that's the last full one that we had. So yeah, that I think just scared the crap because I hadn't considered that until I looked at that chart. I had not considered that it would be a filler mission or that it would be a catch-up mission. Now I'm slightly scared and worried. I hadn't even considered that as a possibility.